Let's get into it. This is TeenSpace. Hello and welcome to the TeenSpace Podcast. My name is Danielle, your host, and today we are joined by rising senior Serena Maraj, who is interested in neuroscience. Welcome, Serena.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Today's episode is all about stress, so stay tuned to listen to Serena and I break down what stress really is, why it happens, and how you can manage it better. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in your research?
So, as Danielle said, I'm Serena, a rising senior who's interested in neuroscience, and I'm aspiring to become a doctor. Throughout my teenage years, I believe I only had one topic I wanted to learn more about, and that is the brain, its cognitive behavioral functions, and how it affects us. It became more intriguing as I saw my peers experiencing it and other teenagers around the world being affected by it. This made me dig deeper to the science side behind it.
That's wonderful. So, why did you choose to focus on this topic in particular?
I believe stress is heavier to individuals than it's presented as. It doesn't affect anyone physically, but if you set up your mind that you won't do this or that because X, Y, and Z, I believe most people don't have the will to fight for it, to keep on going, and this is the reason I would like to focus on it, especially as it affects youth like me.
I can completely see where you're coming from. Now, is there something that you've learned that's surprising about stress that most people don't know?
Okay, so I know this will sound crazy, but stress is actually essential for our body to keep on going. The problem is when that switch is turned on and it cannot turn off.
That's so interesting. Do you care to elaborate a little bit?
So for our body to keep on going, we need hormones, right?
Yes.
And adrenaline and cortisol are essential hormones that are released by stress. But if these hormones are released in huge amounts, they can affect our body negatively, which is why stress is actually formed.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. You already touched into it, but what exactly is stress from a scientific perspective?
To simplify it, stress is an emergency alarm, which is your brain's way to alert and prepare your body for a quarrel. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline kick in, raising your heart rate, making you feel faint, and the problem is that you cannot moderate them. Stress can lead to trauma in some cases, which then can lead to autoimmune diseases, which means your immune system is attacking your own body.
That's really interesting. So, we hear terms like chronic stress and acute stress. What's the difference between them?
Chronic stress is long term. It's when you feel pressure on you. You feel adrenaline kicking in and no motivation at all. Meanwhile, acute stress is basically short term. You want to do good somewhere in your exams, presentation, and after taking it, it basically fades away. So it's not there with you all the time, following you.
Absolutely. Now, you already explained it again, but what happens in the brain when someone experiences stress?
So the amygdala, an almond-shaped structure in the brain which helps us process our emotions, signals the hypothalamus, a very small but important part of our brain, triggering a chain of reactions, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. Stress can damage areas like the hippocampus. This last one helps us evolve our learning and our memory formation.
Oh, I see. So, what do you think is the biggest impact when someone experiences stress?
So everyone experiences stress differently, and stress is not just an emotion. It affects the way your brain and heart function. It also demotivates you from typical daily activities.
I couldn't agree more. I've seen how stress, especially chronic stress, ends up making peers and friends feel as if they can't do anything correctly and removes that motivation or vitality from their life. I totally understand what you're speaking about. Moving forward, how can stress show up in ways that we don't always recognize?
So most people judge it as being lazy or unmotivated, and sometimes we don't realize it ourselves that we're actually stressed. Being burned out is a kind of stress. Other times it shows up as being irritable or getting sick more often. It's not always about crying or feeling as if you're about to explode. It hides behind even small everyday habits that we don't notice or we overlook.
I've seen how stress can feel paralyzing and how sometimes you get into that fight or flight reaction where you don't know what to do. I totally understand. And to continue that thought, do you think social media and school pressures are making stress worse for teens today?
Definitely. I believe that my peers especially, feel a pressure to do well in school and get good grades. Also, for social media, I believe that comparing yourself to others also adds on to that stress. You want to be as good as them or be better than them. And I believe that sense of competitiveness also adds on to your stress levels and damages you.
I couldn't agree more. Social media and those kinds of societal pressures, I guess you could see, could change someone's outlook on life or change how they view themselves in a very destructive way. And that type of stress is incredibly hard to unlearn. Your mental health matters just as much as your grades or your activities or anything else. And you don't have to wait until things feel quote unquote bad enough to reach out. Even small worries deserve support, and your stress shouldn't have to control you. There are tools, resources, and people who want to help. And if you want to learn more about stress and mental health, there's always the National Institute of Mental Health and all of their websites that have great teen friendly resources. Additionally, the TeenSpace provides a bunch of resources ourselves about how to manage stress as a teen. And if you want to see yourself or connect with others, you can always send us a DM to join the podcast or just watch our content and share it with a friend. So, what are some myths about stress that you'd like to clear up for anyone who's listening?
The fact that stress only affects your mind. I kind of touched on this before, but I believe that stress doesn't only affect your mind, it also affects your body, the way you process things, your immune system, your heart. And I believe that being stressed is not a sign of weakness, and expressing it is not weak either. It's a sign that you're actually strong and can apprehend your emotions.
Now, moving on to some coping mechanisms or some takeaways from this podcast, what strategies do you use to personally manage stress?
My ways of coping with stress are walking in nature. As someone from two small European countries, I value my nature surroundings, and going on walks is an amazing way to release excess hormones and calm my mind. But I also love doing small things like writing and saying positive affirmations and journaling my thoughts and feelings.
I also personally journal myself, and I love just taking some time out of every day to just reflect on my day and talk within myself about what could have gone better or what I really enjoyed about the day, what I'm grateful for. And to anyone listening, I think journaling is a great exercise to be more mindful about your thoughts and the way you're thinking about things. Because once you're actually writing them down or saying them aloud, you're realizing some patterns or the way you commonly interpret things when really you might be needing to see it in another way. Additionally, I really like what you said about being in nature. I read this study about how being in nature and being surrounded by plants, it's a way to relieve your stress because you're in a calming environment. You're being surrounded with natural, beautiful things that remind you of your existence, and even though it kind of makes you a little existential, you realize that you're one big, beautiful part of a big, beautiful world. I love that. Thank you. In your opinion, are there any healthy ways that you'd like to share that retrain the brain and heart to handle stress better?
Okay, one thing that has helped me, other than walks, nature, and jogging, are sleeping. So, sleeping a healthy amount has helped me rewire my brain. 7 to 8 hours per night, I'd say, has been like my routine. And I've also started kind of meditating, not really because I don't get in that pose and stuff, but like I lay down on my bed, I guess, and think about stuff that help calm me down or listen to music that helps me concentrate towards stuff that and motivates me, I guess. And also exercising has also helped me going to the gym releasing all that excess hormones, I guess.
Absolutely. I completely agree with everything that you just said. Jogging, going on walks, exercising, even meditating, all of those are great ways to release excess hormones, as you said, but also clear your head and get in a better mindset or space to think about something over again. As someone who, again, goes to a academically competitive school, I know that sometimes, again, stress may feel debilitating. But if you take a second to step out of that space, just go on a walk or a run, and you just clear your head a bit, once you re enter that space, you're able to think about it much more clearly, much more logically, while being stressed might make you interpret it in a worse way.
Self-care.
Yes, self care is super important, especially for teens. I know you talked about how you like to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, but from what you know, how does sleep or the lack of it connect to stress and brain health?
So, starting off with the lack of sleep, it weakens the brain's ability to focus, learn, and form memories by disrupting activities in the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. It also prevents the brain's glymphatic system from clearing waste, leading to toxic buildup that increases long term risks like dementia. Over time, imbalances in stress and mood regulation chemicals raise anxiety, depression, and cognitive decline. Meanwhile, while getting your sleep, it activates the glymphatic system, the opposite that lack of sleep does, which clears toxins and keeps the brain healthy. Balanced sleep restores mood regulation chemicals, reducing the stress and protecting long term brain function.
To continue that thought, do you think the brain and heart can recover from chronic stress, or are the changes permanent?
This last one has affected a very close friend of mine. She has gone chronic stress since she was from a very young age. And what her psychologist basically told her was that if she was younger, they could have changed the way her heart or her brain dealt with it, but now it was too late. So I guess science says no. And if it's caught on too late, I believe that the damage is permanent and already done.
I guess that just emphasizes the need for self care and emphasizes the need to reach out if you need help or if you're struggling. And that's exactly what we want to hear on this podcast and in the teen space. Thank you so much for sharing. If a teen listening right now feels constantly stressed or might feel confined to chronic stress, what's the very first step that they should take, in your opinion?
Telling someone they trust. For me, if I ever feel stressed, I have to tell my mother. I have to spill it out because if I don't, I'll just bottle it up and explode later on. And because I have experiences on doing that, bottling feelings up. When you explode, it's permanent damage to your heart. I believe it's better to just tell someone immediately than go through all that suffering.
Yeah, that's exactly the message we want to send here. Suffering alone shouldn't be anybody's fate. And honestly, as someone who, again, gets stressed, the first step being to reach out to someone or let them know that you're struggling is always something that we want to emphasize and address here. Additionally, it's always incredibly important to use your surroundings and the people in your circle to comfort you. You're never going through anything alone, and confiding in your friends or family or peers is always an incredibly healthy way to communicate and empathize with others. On a happier and much more exciting note, what excites you about the future of neuroscience research, especially on stress?
So, from the latest researches I've read, is basically researchers writing down how to manage your stress, and they've done personalized writings basically on how to help different individuals cope in various ways with stress and anxiety.
That sounds incredibly interesting. Personalized treatment for stress is probably something that is going to help a lot of people, and I can't wait to read up more on it, and I encourage all of our listeners to read up more on it too. Now, what's one thing that you wish every teen knew about stress?
So, as I said before, you're not weak for feeling stress. You're not weak for feeling stressed out. You're not weak for feeling burned out. It doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're human. The key is not to carry it alone.
That's wonderful. The burden of carrying stress alone is something that might break a person, and I think that message that you're not alone in feeling anything is incredibly important. I think this was like a trend on TikTok, but there's this trend maybe a couple weeks or months ago that there really isn't any original experiences, and even though usually it's meant to be something funny, I think that we could also utilize it in this context, and how even though you might feel alone and stressed and suffering, maybe by your own creation or by your surroundings, there's always someone out there who might relate to you and understand what you're going through. And it's never, never a bad thing to reach out or try to get help from somebody. Okay, this one's a little bit more of a subjective question to learn a little bit more about you. But if you could design a perfect stress-free day, what would it look like?
So, as I said, I love nature. It would definitely be in nature. Maybe listening to my favorite songs, eating good food. I'm a tourist, so I enjoy eating and everything. No deadlines, so I don't feel stressed. And being with close friends and family. That would be the perfect day for me.
We're so similar. I think that for my perfect stress-free day, it would consist of a lot of the same things. Recently, since it's summer, I went with my parents and my sister to the Bronx Botanical Garden, and just being surrounded by all the flowers, all the foliage, all the nature, eating good food with my family who I'm really close with. I just really enjoyed that experience. And even though I'm a Scorpio, I totally agree. Good food warms your soul. All right, so what does self care mean to you personally?
So, self care is vital for the brain because it reduces stress, balances mood regulating chemicals, and prevents burnouts. Healthy routines like sleep, exercise, and relaxation support memory, focus, and emotional stability. Over time, self-care protects against anxiety, depression, and cognitive decline, keeping the brain resilient and sharp. It helps the brain by lowering stress hormones, improving memory, focus, and emotional balance, while also clearing toxins during rest. At the same time, it supports the heart by reducing blood pressure, improving circulation, and lowering the risk of cardiovascular diseases. Together, these benefits keep both the brain and heart healthier, stronger, and more resilient against long-term damage.
That's really interesting. Now, what's an interesting or unexpected self care ritual that you've seen actually work? Like, what's something that you personally do?
So I've noticed most people make origami when they feel
Wow.
stressed, as they focus on the moment, and that is interesting. But for me, that doesn't work because I'm a perfectionist, and it stresses me out more than it helps me relax. So I personally like singing or going out with my friends to any kind of store that has fragrances, like Sephora, for example, or Etos is basically a fragrance shop. This last one helps me as it boosts alertness and reduces cortisol. An effective hormone called endorphin is released. This hormone helps with the relaxation of the heart, improving the mood, and reducing any sort of pain.
Back to your point about origami and how sometimes it doesn't work for you because of your perfectionism, I think that that's amazing to know about yourself, because honestly, self-care methods are different for everyone, and even though yours might be something, some other person might see something wrong with it, and honestly that's fine, because self-care is meant for you and yourself only. So even though it might seem unconventional, it's always important to listen to your body, listen to your mind, and really do what makes you feel passion and excitement. And on that note, I'm honestly really surprised at how similar we are because personally, I have a karaoke machine downstairs, and whenever I feel like I'm too into my work or I'm a little stressed out, I always just go downstairs and sing a karaoke song with my sister. And I think that singing or any kind of creative outlet is really important in self care because it's a way to express yourself without words. My answer to this question was actually going to be quite similar, but I was actually going to say that for me, cooking or baking is one of the best ways to manage stress since I love to put my energy into creating something that gives me a sense of, I guess, control as well as focus. It's like mindfulness in action, I guess you could say. And then also there's the reward of tasting what I made because I guess research shows that engaging our senses, especially smell and taste, can calm the nervous system. And when I get to share my food with others, especially, it's even more powerful because I guess that act of giving and having that connection ends up releasing oxytocin, which is a neurotransmitter which naturally boosts mood and reduces stress. So, I guess in a way, it's not just about the food, it's more about creating joy for myself and
The
the people
feeling.
around me. Yes, totally. I'm glad we got to talk about that. But moving forward, what are three small self care habits that teens can realistically fit into maybe a busy school day or work day?
So I have a really busy school schedule. So if I can fit this, I think everyone can personally. As I said before, I do repeat affirmations to myself. It makes me feel better. Even if something isn't true, at least it makes me feel good about myself, and it makes me feel as if I'm close to my goal, or like I'm about to reach that result. It makes you feel very good about yourself. Taking a shower is something I think, no, because actually I didn't think of this before as a way that helps you relax, because it's something so simple and you don't even realize that it actually helps. Whether cold or hot, I don't think it actually matters because they both affect your body in positive ways. And the last one, journaling and writing down your feelings and emotions. As we said before, we both do it. And if you cannot do that, because some people cannot express themselves, maybe exercise or playing any kind of sport, partaking in any kind of activity can help. I think that is the best way to I think that's the best way to take care of yourself, I guess.
Yeah, all of those are incredibly realistic. I think that for positive affirmations, it's really important to understand what your goals are, and by, I guess, repeating them to yourself, you're kind of reinforcing that idea that you're on the way, you're almost there. And then also it helps you, I guess, fake it till you make it. Um just because something might not necessarily be entirely true, even though you might not entirely believe it, if you say it over and over, you're kind of tricking your brain into believing it. And when it's something positive, it's always important to keep that habit since if you're repeating negative thoughts about yourself over and over and over, that's how you start believing them. So by changing the narrative and talking good about yourself, you're able to, wouldn't want to say trick, but convince your mind and convince yourself that you're worth it, which is incredibly true. Moving on, personally, I love taking warm showers and just smelling my soaps and stuff like that because it really is relaxing, especially after a long day where I feel kind of gross after working out or walking around a lot. And I feel like a good shower really refreshes your mind since you feel clean afterwards and are ready to start the next thing. And also, I don't personally do any sports, but I know that that community building and that sense of being a part of a team is really, really helpful. And because of all of these realistic, I guess, self care habits, I think teens watching this episode will have a great list of ideas to take care of themselves more. Wow, I didn't expect our answers to be that similar, but anyway, to continue. How can people learn more about your research or follow along with what you're doing?
So I have yet to publish my first research. I'm in my early stages of my academic journey, but I share a lot of what I'm learning with my peers. And if someone contacts me, I'll definitely share my interests a lot and I'll yap about them.
All of us from TeenSpace are rooting you on and can't wait to see what you accomplish. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind anyone listening that stress is something that we all deal with. You're not alone in it. A little stress can push us to get things done, but when it feels like a constraint that's constant or overwhelming, that's a sign that you might need extra support. Serena and I talked about how chronic stress might lead to permanent damage, but that's only after it's left untreated for a very long time. If you're feeling exhausted, anxious, or stress is running your life, please reach out, whether it's to a friend, a parent, a teacher, or even a school counselor, because talking about it is one of the strongest things you can do. And if you ever feel like stress is too much to handle or you're in a crisis, you can always dial 988 in the US to connect with the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They're available 24/7. If you need help finding any of our resources, they're all on the TeenSpace website, which you can access at theteenspace.com. And remember, your brain and body can recover. There are real strategies and people out there who want to help you, and you never have to go through it alone. Thank you again for your insight. Now, where can we find you? What socials are you on?
I only have Instagram and I have Discord as well, if anyone is interested.
Well, that's all from me for now. Thanks for being in the space with us. This has been the TeenSpace Podcast, and you can find all of our socials in the description below. Thanks again to Serena for joining us for this interview, and bye-bye! Thank you for sharing this space with us.